welcome. In this tutorial, in this video, we are going to learn how to create a small base shell in Revit. So we're going to build a floor, we're going to build some walls, we're going to build a basic ceiling, we're going to basically build a flat roof. This is core and shell for one of the projects we're working on, but even if you aren't a student of mine, I think this will just be super helpful in the sense that it's just a very generic setting up model that you can forge ahead, and many videos to follow are going to be using this project as an example. Okay, so I am on the welcoming page, the home page if you will, in Revit, and I am about to begin a new project. And we are always going to start by using a template file that is set up under architectural template so that our feet and inches get read beautifully. We are creating a new project, and you'll hear me call it that many times in Revit. Obviously a project file, I name subfolders project files. So temp files automatically get saved in Revit, as you probably already know. Or if you're new to Revit, you will see temp files get saved. So I put all my Revit files in one folder so that it's easy to keep organized. So I'm going to hit OK here, which of course is going to open up the interface in Revit. And you'll notice very clearly that my properties window is off on my left-hand side of the interface, and my project browser is off on the right-hand side of my interface. And why I do that is so that I could see more information in the windows. I obviously could use the tab feature on the left-hand side of the interface, but I like the division. It's just a way I like to work. So, so just wanted to call it out. Okay, so we have a CAD file that I'm going to link. I know I've showed this in previous videos, but if you go to the Insert tab in Revit and go to Link CAD, you are going to be asked to obviously find your folder. I hopefully have done a good job in organizing. I think I have. So if you're a student of mine, I've shared this file with you already. If you're not a student of mine, I am more than happy to share this file. But for the most part, it's just a very generic rectangular building in Chicago, Illinois, and I'm just going to show you how to build off of it. So I'm going to open it, and you can see automatically it is placed within the Cartesian coordinate system in Revit, just like it is actually in AutoCAD. And you can see in Revit with our standard exterior building tags, they are not centered. They never will be. So you will move these exterior building tags, which these exterior building tags represent north, south, west, and east in the building. And so if you look in your project browser off to the right, it is under the title Elevations Building Elevation. And literally I don't have anything built in 3D, but eventually once I do, I will be taking you to the east view just to showcase that. So usually what I do is I just do a window selection around all 4 tags, elevation tags, and I will move my cursor on top of one of them, and you will see the move icon, and that just tells you that you can snap down on the left side of your mouse, if you will, and you can drag. So I'm kind of looking at this one first, then I'll window select these 3, and I'm just centering them so that as we build this model, video after video, or week after week, class after class, or just learning, playing, exploring, it's going to just build up and show. I don't need to set up any views. It'll be automatically for me. So at this early stage, if I don't have to do anything in editing the CAD drawing, so you can see if I zoom into the CAD drawing, everything is coming in with this color purple, which is great because when you draw in Revit, everything is going to be black. And so I will know that this is pretty much my CAD drawing. I will know that it's my CAD drawing also because if I accidentally snap on it, which is going to happen about 50 times, it'll turn blue, and it's locked. It's pinned, basically, is what it's called, but again, AKA locked. And I'm never going to unpin it. I'm never going to move it. If I move this in Revit, it is not going to be in the same coordinate system location as it's set up in AutoCAD, and that might not be an issue at the beginning of a project, but that might be an issue 2 weeks from now when all of a sudden I want to create some unique barrel vaulted ceiling or curtain wall front entrance, and on and on. So you try to stay as organized as you can, of course, literally. So next step is I want to save my drawing. So You can just hit save if you haven't saved previously, and it of course will take you to project folders. And this is kind of what I'm talking about. This is our assignment 5 final project. Inside that subfolder, I have made another subfolder and called it Revit project file, and this is where all of my Revit files will be created. I don't have any temp files yet because I've only been working for a minute, but in about probably by the end of this video, definitely I'm going to have temp files. I do not delete them. Shockingly, I have needed to go back, and so they're actually very helpful. You can change how many temp files get saved. If you don't want the 4, you can reduce it, or you can actually make and have more temp files saved. I usually keep it pretty standard there, because just for reference and backup. And of course, at this time in the semester or just working professionally, you want to make sure you're backing up your work in 2 to 3 locations other than, for me, I'm working off my desktop or a drive off my computer. So anyway, I'm going to name this file final, my last name, and just a little information on when it is, and it's fall 2022, 2022. So I'm just going to save. And of course, Revit files are saved with the file extension RVT. Beautiful. And then I'm going to move on. Oh, and so I already had this file existing, so I'm just going to overwrite it. You probably won't get that message if you're starting anew. Okay, so where do I begin? I will always begin with the walls. And just a little reference. Most of the time, I know this project, but most of the time I'm getting familiar with a new project. So, at the very top in your short, short tool, bar in the upper left, I have this measuring distance tool. I'm going to select it, and I'm just going to do a quick little dimension read, and I'm going to zoom in so you can see that better. Basically, the depths of our walls, 3 of our walls, is at 1'8". The kind of wall that we're going to build with is basically under your architecture tab. Everything that we begin to 3D model or build, and again, in Revit, you're building 2-dimensionally and 3-dimensionally at the same time, all depending on your view. Don't mind me, I didn't realize my volume was that high. Just reduce that a little bit. Okay, so literally, I am going to always be going here for the wall. I'm going to be going here for some floors, or 1 floor at least, a couple ceilings, eventually curtain walls and curtain systems. So literally, walls is where I'll always begin. So wall architectural. And the wall type that I want you guys to use, because it's the perfect depth of the actual wall, and it is a masonry wall, is this exterior brick on CMU. And what does CMU stand for? It stands for concrete masonry unit, so it's perfect for this building because it is a masonry building. And so literally, we're going to select it. And then in your quick axis toolbar, so that green bar horizontally that is below your tabs and panels, that's what we call an option bar in Revit. And very much, if I didn't change anything, there's just some generic settings, which for the height of the wall, I do have it set to unconnected, and it's automatically by default set to 20 feet. I'm going to leave that. Location line, however, is set to wall center. I'm going to actually change this to finish face exterior. We want to keep a chain reaction happening, meaning when I build one wall by snapping on the left side of my mouse and snapping again to end it, I'm going to keep going to build continuous walls if I need to. If I don't, I just basically either hit the escape key or the right key or right snap button on the mouse. I'm not offsetting anything. I do not have curvilinear walls in this scenario. And join status, meaning from one wall to the next, I do want to allow join. That's going to be beneficial when we start getting into, details, elevations, sections. Sometimes without walls being connected or joined, they just don't look clean and drawn properly. So, again, that's not today's video, but in the future it probably will be. Anyway, so I'm going to come on over here, and I'm going to start at the, actually I'm going to start at the bottom because it's just a cleaner reference. And so I am using finish face exterior. So literally I'm going to be using endpoints. And when I snap, and if it looks like it's not on top of the wall, which in this scenario it's not, you just hit your space bar and it basically flips to where it needs to be. So I'm going to just snap, snap, and snap. So I'm going to snap at this corner. So again, endpoint through the whole thing. Same thing here. I'm going to snap. And you can see when you build in Revit on top of a CAD drawing, especially one that's post-shade like this, solid filled, it will turn black and white, and it basically is drawn on top of the CAD drawing, so it will turn the color in what you're referencing, which in this case is white. So no, in this scenario, I'm literally getting to the corner, and notice the object snap, that first snaps up is basically this double arrow. But if you wait or move your cursor just a little bit, endpoint will pop up. Wonderful. And I'm going to hit escape. So those are those three walls. And again, you can see all of a sudden my Revit file in 2D is changing. If I go to the quick axis toolbar in the upper left-hand corner, I can select this default 3D view. And immediately you could start to see that I'm building a 3D model. Again, really generic, but if I zoom in, you could see the texture of brick. You can see the depth of the wall. Obviously, because in Revit, it's an intelligent program, and so you are building truly systems. So this is a wall system that you can learn more about by going through this edit type tool, changing materials, changing even the depth of it even more if you needed to. That's not this video, but again, if you needed to customizing anything in Revit, usually it's fairly simple. And beneficial as far as design. So anyway, I'm going to go back to floor plans, level 1 view. And this last wall here, again, I know you guys have field surveyed, you have visited the site probably a couple times, at least by now. This is truly a storefront wall of glass, but also masonry. So I'm going to build it just as a 1 foot depth masonry wall. So not the same wall as these three, but just a simple generic wall, basically. So if I zoom on down, you guys can see, if you keep going, you got 5 inches, 6 inches, foot. The one that I want is this generic 12-inch masonry wall. I'm not doing any editing of the facade in this video, but again, if you guys need me to, I will in a future video. And with that said, I'm going to, again, with my option bar set, it remembers the last wall you created. So notice my location line of creating that wall is still at finish face exterior. Wonderful. Everything else also, again, generic. So I can start at this far end point, but literally I'm going to start here at the front face. And again, I might be needing to change that a little bit later on based on the design, but for now I'm just going to build it like this, and I'm going to end it. And a little snapping kind of went on. Notice my wall, the CMU wall, is nice and clean. There's no hatching, but in this particular case, this wall is showcasing a concrete, if you will, hatch in AutoCAD, but it's called pattern in Revit. So you're going to hear me say hatch and pattern, and they mean the same thing. But again, if I go into my 3D default view, which once you select that 3D default view in your project browser, you will have a view category, 3D views, and obviously the isometric view that I'm looking at right now in Revit, that is just called generically 3D. Wonderful. And again, it's just set to 20 feet, which I'm going to take a look at next, and I am going to save. Control S, of course, is save. Where am I going to go next? I want to start talking about these building elevation tags. Let me show you north, south, east, and west, and particularly east. So now that I have walls, if I jump into 3D, this is what we get generically in Revit. We get 2 levels. Level 1 is always at 0 feet, 0 inches. Level 2 is always set by default to 10 feet. I'm going to change that because we know from field verifying and double checking, going next door to building and measuring with measuring tape, that the first floor, so meaning from the finished floor, so above the finished floor, all the way to the underside of the deck, we're looking at 12 feet. So again, might as well change those settings. Another thing that I'm looking at is right away when I start a project in Revit, I want to be as organized as possible, and this is coming from somebody that needs to work on their organizational skills more. But when it comes to digital drawing, I'm usually pretty good. But when you have a level selected in Revit, you'll see a circle right at one of the quadrants at the level tag. And if you move your cursor on top of it, it'll actually turn like a shade of purple. So it goes from purple to blue. So it's very hard to see, but if you snap down on the left side of your mouse, you can drag to the left. And it's just getting it closer to your actual building, your actual architecture. Same thing on the left-hand side. There's no reason to have 30 feet of a center line showcasing your level. Move them closer, literally. Not that we're setting up a construction drawing set, but you will be in future projects for yourself, so why not just be nice and organized. So we need a third level because this truly is a building with 2 levels. So how do you create a level in Revit? Again, I'm going to save really quick. Well, first, you can only create levels in this view. So you need to be in elevation views in order to create levels. And if you look under your tab, architecture tab, if you look in the upper right-hand corner, levels is datum in Revit. And you can see that you can create a level or create grids in this view. And so that's exactly what I'm going to do versus, and let me just say, if I go to a floor plan level 1 view, and of course I'm still highlighted in the architecture tab, notice datum level is not an option. So immediately you'll know I'm not in the right view. So I'm going to go back to elevations building tab or building elevations views. And again, I am going to look in the upper right hand corner and I'm going to grab the option level. And you're going to always start on the left-hand side, and you're looking for this beautiful constraint line that I talk about a lot in class, I know. But when you see it, it's great because it means that when I snap on the left side of my mouse, I will be aligned with the left justification of all my other levels. So literally, our second floor, I'm going to make it also 12 feet in height. Again, I have not been on the second floor. I know you have not been on the second floor visiting, so really we don't know the exact height, but we know roughly by photos the overall dimension of the building. So 12 feet I'm going to make it. And I'm going to snap, again, because I see that constraint blue dashed line on top of that magenta X. I'm going to snap once on the left side of my mouse, and I'm going to drag to the right-hand side. And so immediately, again, because Revit is an intelligent program, it understands that this is level 3. It understands the full height now of adding up from level 1 to level 3, what that means. And again, I'm seeing that blue dash constraint line to the right. And so if I snap, literally it's placing my next level. And I just hit the escape key to get out of creating any more. And this is where, and I talk about this a lot, you know, again, if this was a construction documents video or class, I would be editing this further. I would be probably changing uppercase to lowercase, you know, text to uppercase from upper and lowercase. I'd be changing dimensions. I think in class what I did with you guys, to be fair, instead of having this at 24 feet, I literally did create it at 27 feet. And the reason why I did that is because I'm about to edit these 4 walls that we created, and I'm about to edit them to not be unconnected to architecture or any datum information in Revit. I'm about to connect them to level 3's height, which I'm going to do next. But basically, that is levels in a nutshell. That is cleaning up our elevation view in a nutshell. And again, in digital media, we're not necessarily, or I'm not asking for elevations, but for your studio classes, this is going to come into play because I know that's what we're looking at, a little bit more detail, of course, and using Revit to our benefit to save some time. So again, I'm going to save. I am in my project browser going to jump into an isometric view. And then literally, you guys, and I was kind of showing this a little bit in class, I'll show this with the video. If you move your cursor on top of a wall and it pre-highlights, if you hit your tab key, it will select all the other wall categories, which you guys can see. And again, I'm not snapping on anything right now. I'm not even holding my mouse. But if I snap once on the left side of my mouse, it will formally select those 4 walls. And how you know that is because it shades it in blue. And then this is where I beautifully can go to the properties window, and where it says top constraint, which basically means what is the height of the wall, what is the top height. I no longer want to use unconnected because again, that is just not good modeling, right? We have a level 3, select level 3, which is basically at height of 27 feet. Now, the actual walls need to be shown and showcased at 27 feet. However, when we get to build our roof, the flat roof, it is not at 27 feet. There's actually a little bit of a parapet. Now again, how much that parapet, I don't know because I haven't been on the roof, but you can see it from the street, especially across the street. And so we're gonna drop our roof a couple feet just to have a little bit of reference to that parapet. So again, this is kind of information that sometimes you know right away, sometimes you don't. I don't know if you guys noticed that I did not hit the apply button in properties right away, but if you wait a good minute or two, it will make those changes. Wonderful. So again, I'm gonna save. What's my next step? Flooring. So I'm gonna go back to my view floor plans level 1. Zoom in a little bit so you guys can see. Again, I'm under the architecture tab. I am selecting floor and I'm selecting architectural. And I'm going to build, the great question is what shape to use. Now, we have a rectangular shaped building, so immediately in the upper right hand corner under modifying create floor boundary, I'm going to select under the draw option the rectangle tool. Wonderful. But the other question is, do I build this floor inside corner to corner or outside corner to corner? And I have to be honest with you, I think I change it every time I build a model. To me, it should be interior corner to interior corner because, of course, these masonry exterior walls are built starting in the foundation. So, you know, under the grade, if you will. But I'm not going to lie, I have also built them to exterior corner, knowing that I wasn't going to be setting up any exterior sections. But to be neat and fair, I'm going to make it interior corner or build it interior corner, build the floor interior corner to interior corner. Let me be most commutative as I can. This is a generic floor. As you can see in your properties, I'm not getting fancy. I'm not even thinking somewhat of materials because I know in this interior restaurant, I'm gonna have more than one material. I'm gonna show you editing of this floor probably in another video because you're gonna wanna know how to do that also. But for just building up the shell generically, this is good. So again, once you create it in your edit boundary option, which is a magenta line, or in this case, magenta rectangle, but edges, you're gonna hit this at the very top north in the interface. You're gonna hit this green check and it's called finish edit mode, and you're gonna select it. The floor itself is going to turn blue. This is where, again, I always go back to a 3D isometric view, and this is where I'll orbit, and I'll orbit upside down. And so, great, wonderful, we're on track, and I'm going to save. Okay, what's my next step? My next step, I'm going to build the second floor. Actually, I'm going to build the second floor, literally, and then I'll build the roof. I think in class I built actually the first level ceiling. But since I'm just built a floor on the first level, let me build a floor on the second level. So right away, when I go to my views, floor plans, level 2, you generically can again see the generic CAD drawing that I loaded and linked on level 1. Sometimes this does not show up. I was lucky in this scenario it did. However, I was hoping that it didn't in some way. In your properties, you have on the left-hand side what's called underlay, range, base, level. If this didn't have level 1, I would have been selecting level 1 to make sure that I could see basically the building, or else, you know, really I couldn't build a floor or ceiling because I wouldn't know the shape of the building, or the exact shape of the building, I should say. So in this case, great. So again, I'm going to do the same steps that I did just minutes ago. I'm under the architecture tab. I'm going to build a floor. I'm building a floor architectural. By default, we have many, many different types of floors, but by default, the one that is selected always is floor generic 12-inch. Wonderful. Again, in the upper right-hand corner, the shape I'm going to select is a rectangle. And again, I am going to snap interior corner to interior corner for my second floor. And again, it's in magenta, it's drawn in magenta. Again, I know I need to edit this. We have stairs, we have back stairs, we have front stairs. Some of us don't even and aren't working with a whole entire second floor. Some of us are going to have an atrium in the front. So this shape needs to change, or some of us are getting rid of the second floor entirely, and our first levels are these high voluminous interior spaces, which is great. But in this case, I just want to be as generic as possible. So what I've built is exactly what I built on the first level, and I'm done. So I'm going to hit that Finish Edit Mode green check. Wonderful. And again, I will always jump into 3D. This is where, I might be jumping back and forth maybe with a little bit of wireframe visual style in that lower left-hand corner, or going back then to hidden line, because I realize I have a first floor, I have a second floor, right? And again, if you have an object or component selected, it will tell you what that object is in properties, but also in the upper right-hand corner, you're probably in some kind of modify mode. So my last step here is the roof. No matter what I'm doing design-wise with my restaurant on the interior, so I am gonna, for my roof, I can either go to floor plans level 3, which notice if I go to floor plan level 3, I do not have the CAD drawing showcasing. No big deal. Literally, I just need to know that in properties under underlay, if I want to build my roof at level 3, which makes the most sense, right? I will go under this range base level, and I will select level 1 so that I'll hit apply. So I can at least see the building, which is, this is going to allow me and help me understand how to build the roof, or mimic the shape of the building, if you will, for the roof. So in this scenario, a roof and a floor are similar, but then they're also different. But again, I'm going to find how to create and where to create that roof under the Architecture tab. Roof, you want to select Roof by Footprint. Again, I'm in edit mode. When you start to see this greenish, I call it healthcare green, but greenish windows and palettes popping up. Again, it is a rectangular building, so I'm grabbing and selecting the rectangle tool. And the type of roof I'm selecting, again, by default, it's just a generic 12-inch roof. Wonderful. And where am I beginning? Always, always, always the interior corners of your building, especially because there's a parapet in this scenario. And what you'll see that looks different from a floor to a roof is we get these triangles. And what those triangles mean, those are represented of each edge, and it's represented as basically an angle, a pitch to the roof. So if I were to hit this green check mark, which I would normally do, your roof might look something like this. And especially if you go into 3D, you are looking at something that doesn't exist for the building. It looks like the things that we draw when we're young that represent homes. But in this scenario, this building truly has a flat roof. So how do I edit that? I'll just go back to floor plan level 3. It's been highlighted the whole entire time because it's blue, but in the upper right, I will hit this edit footprint. Get back to this view, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to window select all 4 of those edges, which when you select in edit mode, it will turn blue, a darker blue than what you're used to seeing the other blue highlights, but blue in general. And right at your options bar, again, if you can't find something in Revit, just make sure you're double checking what the option bar settings are. But right here, by default, what's checked on is what's called defines slope. If you decheck that, you will get rid of all the triangles that represent the slope of the roof. If you hit the green check for finish edit mode to complete the editing, you will find, going back to your 3D view, that you are looking at a flat roof. However, it's not in its correct place yet. I told you guys that there's a parapet with this building. If I have it selected, which I do, right where it says, not base offset, base offset from level, literally right here, you guys, I am going to edit this. I'm going to edit this to -3 feet. Now again, I haven't been on the roof. I don't know if literally this is as accurate as I can be, but I know it is between 2 foot and 3 foot. So I'm gonna just hit apply, and you're gonna see that it'll drop a little bit down, well, 3 foot down from where originally it was created at level 3. And that's it. I'm gonna save. We have generically just built a shell, base building shell, without really talking too much about design and editing of the facade, because of course the facade has windows and doors. You know, how do I get into the building? How do I get out, right, for fire or access? Our north wall and our south wall is butted up against other buildings, so we really do not have door openings or window openings in these walls, which, you know, of course are huge. But at the front facade and in the back, we definitely have stairs and exiting and windows. So we'll get into that in some future videos, of course. So I'm just gonna save. And that was it. I just wanted to get you started and get you comfortable. I did not build a ceiling on the first level, and I did not build a ceiling on the second level. I'll do that in the next video, but hopefully this was super helpful. If you found it helpful, please like the video. Let me know if you have any questions or comments, and I will see you shortly. And have a great day. Thanks, guys. Bye.